Bernie, Trilling, to get us started, I understand you have some slides and setting the foundation for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, great, thanks. Well, it's great to be here with you today. You know, it is trying times, as you've all heard. As we've heard also, sometimes some things get done in a crisis that couldn't normally be done. So maybe that's the shining light today. So first of all, what I want to do is kind of introduce a couple ideas for you, and then we're going to do an interactive activity in light of the fact that we've been interacting all morning, right, with all kinds of things. So first of all, does anybody recognize themselves in this picture at all? It's not my fifth grade class, but I don't know. So you know, if we think about education a lot, when we think backwards, we're often thinking about education through a rearview mirror, right? And there's a statement on this table. Could you read that? What's it say?
Once we rid ourselves of traditional thinking, we can get on with creating the future. James Bertrand.
So a lot of us have a disability when we think about education. We think about how we were educated. And that's the rearview mirror of education. So for today, I want you to, at least for this morning exercise, to put this rearview mirror aside in your minds. And let's look forward, because after all, our students are going to be living in the future. That's where their life is going to be held. And so what does the future look like for education? Well, here's one possibility. This is a school, it's a middle school and high school in Minnesota. What do you see that's different about this picture than you did in that previous picture? What's different here? Yeah, right. And in fact, in this school, these kids are working on projects almost all the time in groups. They are clustered together around an advisor, and they actually, that's a cluster. Each one of those little areas is a cluster. Students sit with their advisor most of the days, and most of the time they're working on projects together, meaningful projects that they care about. So it's a fascinating school. Almost no classes, mostly project meetings. Very different. So this may be part of what the future of education may be, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But right now, we're in a pretty tricky situation. We've got one foot in this old rusty boat that we call the education system that actually helped a whole bunch, millions and millions of students graduate from high school. It really has increased the graduation rate overall in this country. But right now, 30% of students are going overboard, possibly because they're overboard and a couple other reasons. But anyway, the jokes will get better, I'm sorry. Okay, so we got one foot in this boat, right? And we got one foot in this thing, which we're just inventing, which is this, high-tech, new age I-boat, right, of education. And, just in case you see there's oars, just in case the technology fails, right? Because we all know about that. So we got one foot in each one of these boats, and unfortunately these boats are starting to move apart from each other, and we're going to have to make some decisions around the future of education. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's a quote from this gentleman who had a very astute quote about Americans in general. He said, "You can always depend on the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else." Okay, so we've tried everything else in education. It's now time to get on and do the right things. All right, so what is the critical question facing education today? What is the critical question? What do students now need to learn to be successful in the 21st century? This is the critical question. And if we get this one right, and if we all agree on what students really need to learn, I suspect the path forward will be a little easier. But we've got to get this one right. So that's what we're going to spend time doing. So with the help of Chris, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to go around and collect some of your answers as we go forward. So here's the exercise. It's a 4-question exercise. First you have to imagine that you have a child, a sister, a relative, a kid who's just entering the school system this year, or has entered the school system this year. In 20 years, when that child graduates into the big wide world, what is the world going to be like? What is it going to be like? jot down a phrase, think of a phrase, and then raise your hand when you've got a phrase that you would like to add to the collective intelligence of the group here today. What's the world going to be like in 20 years that that child that you really care about is going to be graduating into? Anybody want to start off? Yeah. Okay, global? Yes? Others? Yes? Space technology. Are they going to be learning in space? Okay, they're going to be engineering space. Okay, great. Yes, all right. Engineering space. I like that.
They will learn from each other globally if they're connected, learn cultures and more diverse.
Right. Okay, so they're going to be globally connected, learning from each other constantly around the world. Yes? Go ahead, thank you.
Dead.
What's that again?
If we don't change the way we're doing things, everyone will be dead.
Dead. Not a cheery thought, but yes. Yeah. If we don't change, we could all be dead. Okay, good. Yes? Go ahead.
If we don't change it, we'll be in crisis all the time.
Crisis constantly. Constant crisis if we don't change. Okay?
Via grassroots movements, I think students will be more connected by learning how to use what the resources are available, all the resources that we have available.
So in gathering together through social media and all the rest, like we're seeing in, certainly connected, and maybe as a result of that connection be able to make changes much more in the future. Excellent, excellent, yes.
There probably won't be any third world countries left because they'll all be destroyed, and then the first world countries will be the ones left standing.
Countries will be gone, and we'll all be a member of the global culture. Wow, that's a very interesting, because things are getting more and more global. How many problems can we solve right now on a local level? Many of them are very global, so you may be right.
We'll have more of a class society of have and have-nots based on your access to technology.
Okay, so there's going to be the techno whizzes and the techno losers.
Automated.
Automated. Yeah, more and more things done by machine, automated, or at least with help by machines. Yeah.
The way we're going now, public education in 20 years should be completely dead.
Public education completely dead. What's going to replace it?
I don't know what somebody said. Class society, mass poverty, gross inequality, basically a nightmare.
A nightmare. Okay. Wow. That's a downer. But it's a possibility, absolutely. And maybe it's our job to prevent that, right? Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so we got to do something about it. You're right, absolutely. Anybody else? Yes.
I believe creativity and innovation will be valued more than technology because technology will be commonplace.
Technology will be commonplace. Creativity, innovation will be our key characteristics that are going to get us through this nightmare. Yes? That would you say? Okay, good. Yeah, over here. Oh,
I was just going to say, I don't really know.
Uncertainty. Uncertainty, absolutely. I mean, yes. How can you predict the future, right? It's tough. Yeah.
Hopefully a more serious world about technology. More people will care about and value technology and education. So hopefully that's what it turns into.
More caring about education in general, but use of technology to support learning, right? Okay, excellent, excellent. Over here. Yeah.
I agree with all the morbid thoughts. However, if things work out, I think we could be a world of one nation that works together as opposed to a world of competing nations.
A world of one nation as opposed to competing. Yeah, stand for that one. That's a good one. As opposed to competing nations. That's a nice vision. Because we have to solve our problems together these days, yeah? And we're more connected, right? Okay, good. All right, that's great. I think that's a good pause right there.